So it's been a while since I got my ham radio extra license, and I wanted to give an update on what I've been doing with it since then. Um, I have been doing a couple of different things. I've continued, checking in on the local nets and stuff, but I've kind of gotten more and more interested in Morse code. So I've been learning Morse code through the Morse Mania app, which has gone pretty well. I think I'm like 80% of the way there, and it's kind of getting hard, actually. There's certain characters are particularly difficult for me. B, Y, no, Y is not that difficult. B, anyway. One issue that I'm running into, though, is I'm getting a lot of frustration with, figuring out how to put a rig together, right? How to put a radio together. You buy the radio, and I'll use my example of getting the QMX. I decided to get the QMX and make that my portable HF radio. It does do voice, it does do SSB and some other digital modes if I want to do that, but it's a QRP radio, so the focus is, that's like low power, so the focus is on Morse code. And I'm really interested in this idea of being able to make international contacts using a little 5-watt radio, even if it's on Morse code. So I ordered the QMX, and I didn't want to mess it up trying to build it as a kit, although I think that's a cool idea. But the QMX, I saw some reviews, people talking about how it's actually quite small, so it's difficult for a beginner and all this, so I'll just pay the extra money to have them put it together for me. So I did that. I got it in the mail, and then, it's like every step along the way, there's more things to research and figure out. So how do I power this thing? Okay, so I figured out you really got to make sure whatever power source you're using isn't going to go more than 12 volts, because it could fry it. All right, so how do I make sure it's not 12 volts? Well, you could get a trigger cable. And theoretically, you get a trigger cable, you can use any power source. You could use power bricks that you already have on hand to charge your phones and stuff. So, all right, well, that makes sense. So I did that. So I ordered this trigger cable. Trigger cable comes in the mail long before my QMX, and I just can't get the stupid thing to work. I think it was just defective. So I send it back. And it had like 15 different parts because it had interchangeable ends for different plugins. So I thought, okay, well, screw that. I'll just get a dedicated power brick that I know is 12 volt just for this radio. So I did that. Okay, it's finally done. Well, now it needs an antenna, right? So, okay, I got to go down the rabbit hole figuring out what antenna to use. Everybody recommends end-fed half wave, which is like, the important component's only about this big, but you connect it to like a 67-foot wire, but presumably you can put it up in a tree, you can put it on a post, you can mount it on like a mast, like an antenna mast, and then you got to straighten that thing out. This is all stuff I had to figure out, right? I had to figure all this out. Ham Radio Duo does have some great content that's helpful, but okay, so I got my end-fed half-wave antenna. I don't have to tune it. It should work for multiple bands for my radio. I need a keyer, right? What kind of keyer am I going to use? That's the Morse code. You do paddles or straight key. So that's the thing. You got all these kind of decisions along the way, and it's not intuitive, right? So this is definitely a tinkerer's hobby, and tinkerers are not always the best with documentation. so I'm going to do my best to try to document the stuff I figure out as I go. So I've set up a GitHub. The GitHub account is just my call sign, NY0E, November Yankee 0 Echo. And I'm just going to try to document stuff along the way. I do have some different projects I'm kind of working on. I have some CW ringtones that I went ahead and put on there on my GitHub. It should all make sense if you can get to it and look at the different repositories. So like, for example, if you go on there and you look at my QMX repository, you're going to see it's just one README file where I just kind of explain what I've done, the stuff I've gotten for my rig, and so on. Now that I mentioned it, I need to set one up for my Baofeng F8HP. This is my current mobile setup. It's an 8-watt version of the UV5R, and I've got it running to a mag mount antenna on the roof. I don't have power running to it. I'm just using the Baofeng batteries because I've got multiple of these Baofeng radios. Actually, I can swap them out if it runs out when it runs out of battery pretty easily. And I use this to connect to the different nets and things. I've got on the way coming to me is a Signal Stack antenna, which is like their version of the Signal Stick for mobile. It's designed to be more permanent. The Signal Stick is supposed to be really good actually for a mag mount, but I've already got a mag mount. I'm not happy with it. Oh, nice. I'm not happy with the mag mount, mainly because my truck is quite tall, and when I gotta wash my truck, it's a real pain to take it out, and like I gotta to take it off and so on. So I've got all the stuff to mount something more permanently. That'll connect to those Baofeng. It would also connect to my, I've got an Anytone, I think it's like a 778 UV. I think that's what it is. But I got to figure out how I'm going to mount that here in my truck. Also, with it only being a 25-watt radio, I'm wondering if I'm going to end up upgrading pretty soon anyway. So would I be better served to just go ahead and upgrade and then have it all professionally installed in the truck? Maybe. I don't know. So that's all the fun of ham radio, I guess. You're just figuring it out as you go. I'm disinclined to spend money on an upgrade when I don't really have any experience with using what I've got. So I'm kind of leaning towards just using what I've got for now. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. So that's what I've been up to the past couple months, since I upgraded my license a couple of times and proved to myself that I am interested in this hobby for the long term.